A headline from the front page of the New York Times for every day of January 1935. City greets the new year in one of the gayest moods. Festive places crowded. Japanese is seized in Florida as spy. 10 Hauptmann case jurors, 4 women quickly chosen. Colonel Lindbergh a spectator. Colonel and Mrs. Lindbergh on the stand. Mother identifies baby's garments. Father says he heard ladder crash. Colonel Lindbergh names Hauptmann as kidnapper and taker of ransom. Cool in 3-hour cross-examination. Condon to say Hauptmann is man who got ransom. Defense will name 4. Reich Army is supreme as sole military force under pledge by Hitler. Miss Gao firm in her story of night of kidnapping. Identifies baby's clothes. Hauptmann near the scene with ladder, says witness. Linked to ransom note. Condon names Hauptmann as John who got ransom. Perry's defense's attack. Breckinridge backs Condon who acted on his orders but opposed ransom deal. Expert says Hauptmann wrote all ransom notes. $14,600 in bills identified. Miss Earhart flies Pacific from Hawaii in 18 1/4 hours. Finds Oakland despite fog. Saar plebiscite orderly as 98% cast their votes. Nazi total is put at 80%. Saar goes German by 90%. League deliberates today. Anti-Nazis already fleeing. Saar Nazis hail victory as foes go into hiding. League decision today. Break at San Quentin ends in recapture. Warden dying. 2 Bremer kidnappers slain. You stop lying, Hauptmann rages at federal agent. Woman says Hauptmann limped after kidnapping. You're lying, wife cries. Nazis open drive to regain Memel. They report Lithuania mobilizing. Lindbergh ready to testify again to clear servants. Hauptmann not at work March 1st, 1932 books show. Sudden wealth traced. Ladder put into evidence after 15-day struggle. 2 more named Hauptmann. Expert traces tool marks on ladder to Hauptmann. Part of wood to his attic. Hauptmann takes stand, swears he was at home night ransom was paid. Admissions by Hauptmann open cross-examination, shaken by bitter attack. Huey Long troops force his foes to surrender. Martial law declared. Hauptmann faces critical test today of his composure. Hauptmann admits lying and says Wilentz lies too, still protests innocence. Hauptmann's own letters discredit story on Fish as cross-questioning ends. 3 Hauptmann alibis backed by wife on stand. Another witness wavers. A headline for every day of February 1935. Hauptmann alibi backed by 2 more witnesses. Clash on writing expert. Witness says he saw Fish with Sharp Girl and baby. Expert aids Hauptmann. Lindbergh to take stand in rebuttal in aid of servants. Reich invited as an equal to negotiate arms pact. Berlin cool to proposal. 6 alibi witnesses fail to appear for defense. Friends back Hauptmann. Cafe man swears Fish was at Bronx Cemetery. 5 more fail to appear. Expert found no prints of Hauptmann on ladder. Developed 500, police none. Lumberman denies rail is from Hauptmann attic. Defense will rest today. Fish took home only $500, sister swears in rebuttal. Hauptmann alibi attacked. Mrs. Morrow, last witness, backs alibi for her maid. Jury may get case Tuesday. Oldest known city in the world believed found in Mesopotamia. Riley accuses servants, charges police frame-up in his final plea to jury. No mercy, Wilentz plea. Intruder shouts at court. Case goes to jury today. Hauptmann guilty, sentenced to death for the murder of the Lindbergh baby. Layman budget adopted, next year's income tax and gasoline tax raised. Japan would make China accept loan to dominate trade. Mayor plans to operate key buildings and strike, tries to avert walkout. Service strike ordered in 1,000 buildings today. Police leaves canceled. Court backs government on gold, 5-4 for bond payment in new dollar. Businesses surge forward, stocks rise. Roosevelt studies move to protect government fully on any gold suits. Roosevelt asks renewal of the NRA for 2 years. Bill drawn to plug holes. Berlin American Church closes. Curb on funds imperils 2 others. Mrs. Roosevelt is perturbed by verdict in Hauptmann case. Military centers rise near Berlin in strict secrecy. Hitler dares hate of foes in hailing Nazi Party's birth. Nation's business best since 1933, led by autos, steels, and textiles. Morgan's 900 miniatures to be auctioned in London. NRA loses twice in courts. 7A voided in Weirton case. Soft coal code also upset. A headline for every day of March 1935. Policy ring higher-ups hunted as mayor orders gambling and vice drive. Saar gives Hitler delirious ovation as it rejoins Reich. French dismayed as pound tumbles, talk of devaluing. Greek revolt spreads, rebels now hold Crete, reserves are mobilized. U.S. court rules Albany violates interstate law in control of bulk milk. 240 in vice squads shifted to spur racket campaign, court aide set high bail. 13 subpoenaed as court charges a new vice ring, immunity offer by Dodge. 20 policemen face inquiry and search for policy leaders. Greek fleet goes to battle rebels, big losses in army. Havana swept by gunfire, state of siege proclaimed, with general call to arms. Treasury uses $642 million gold profit to retire all national banknotes, calls in bonds, reducing public debt. Threat sent to jurors and rackets prosecutor, first indictments voted. French bill calls for big warships to rival vessels of Italy and Reich. 3,000-year-old archives found, data confirms biblical history. $34 million profit in year by Phillips Utility Group, MAC committee is told. U.S. arrests 2,000 in surprise raids on nation's gangs. Germany creates army of 500,000, orders conscription, scraps treaty, intent powers confer on action. 500,000 see Hitler review military parade in Berlin. Reich arrests 700 pastors. Britain protests to Hitler, will send Simon to confer. Washington also may act. Britain lines up 2 powers behind program at Berlin. French demand firmness. Police end Harlem riot. Mayor starts inquiry. Dodge sees a red plot. Germany rejects protests made by France and Italy. Seeks New Deal in Europe. Secrecy on 859 pay rises is laid to Relief Bureau. Graft rife, Hodson says. Senate vows work relief 68-16 with amendment to expand silver currency. Poland rebukes Germany and now turns to France. Britain's envoys in Berlin. Hitler insists the Soviet imperils peace of Europe, asks Austrian plebiscite. Berlin parleys fruitless, end in a warning by Simon, Memel case enrages Reich. British sees crisis nearer as cabinet hears Simon, Nazi fury on Memel rises. Russia asks cooperation to avert the peril of war, Commons questions Simons. Senate gets new NRA bill rushed to avert strikes, labor clauses stronger. Ethiopia refuses to deal with Italy. A headline for every day of April 1935. Power shortage found in nation. Board warns of wartime peril. Pope warns war would be insanity, appeals for hope. House and Senate clash on drastic bills to end all profiteering in war. Austria, to increase army, plans 2-year service. Poland bars Eastern Pact. Pretty girl men's stalking run to show the Supreme Court how. $5 billion relief bill voted. President ready to speed record peacetime outlay. LaGuardia is reorganizing control of the city relief. Czar to supersede Hodson. Nazis balked in Danzig, falling short of 2/3 vote. Poles protest terrorism. Adolf S. Ochs dead at 77, publisher of Times since 1896. Franco-Russian alliance within League reported. Britain to avoid pledges. Wilgus is heard on relief. Roosevelt sets November for peak of huge spending. British stand by intent as powers meet in Stresa. Want move by the League. Reich to give peace pledge, but to avoid security pact. Stresa solution speeded. Danubian parley in Rome is decided at Stresa. Franco-Italian deal near. 3 powers agree to resist future treaty violations. French protests to League. Widespread air alliance are developing at Geneva as League gets arms issue. Reich sponsored by 3 powers as Germans warn smaller countries. League censures Germany, moves to apply sanctions for future war threats. Reich protests to Britain over Geneva betrayal. London will ignore it. U.S. sharply protests to Germany against discrimination on debts. 7-alarm fire in Brooklyn floods IRT with smoke, fells many in Manhattan. 2,471 die in Formosa quake that wrecked 6,671 homes. Army quickly gives relief. Huge Soviet force near Manchukuo. 600 die in quakes in northern Iran, 3 towns leveled. Berlin's gains in air bring rival capitals in easy reach. Germany brings a drive to end non-Nazi press. 15,000 Nazis rally against churches and for paganism. 12 U-boats built and Germans push training of crews. President in talk to nation promises to expedite relief, emphasizes Social Security. British reply to U-boats likely to be new arming. Nazis reopen Kiel School. A headline for every day of May 1935. Robot plane sets mark from coast. NRA extended 10 months in Senate committee vote. Lynching bill is dropped. MacDonald pledges British air arming and 3-power unity. France and Soviet agree on quick aid in event of peril. 400 die in floods at Bahia. Gunfire stops avalanche. Large buildings destroyed. Goering permits Reiter to glimpse German air gains. Britain acclaims ruler in pageant unsurpassed in history of the empire. Senate passes bonus bill with $2 billion inflation, but it might hold veto. Miss Earhart sets mark in 2,100-mile air dash from Mexico to Newark. 46 naval planes take off on Hawaii Midway flight. Storm is reported at goal. President welcomes Byrd home as guns boom salute to explorer. 450 planes ready to attack Hawaii. 2 die in Navy war game, 1 is destroyer's crash, other in drive of a plane. Lawrence of Arabia dying after crash on motorcycle. Mussolini warns powers to leave Ethiopia to Italy. Einstein is silent as he gets medal. Billion allotted on works. Roosevelt backs NRA plan for 2 years extension. U.S. to own reserve stock and control bank credit is Morgenthau proposal. Soviet big plane crashes wrecked by stunting craft. 49 killed in 2 machines. Pope bids British rejoin church, canonizes 2 English saints. Roosevelt sets $19 to $94 as monthly relief wages, divides nation in 4 groups. Hitler pledges respect for Versailles borders, suggests limiting arms. House overrides bonus veto 322 to 98 despite strong speech by President. 1,500 businessmen ask NRA renewal. Senate kills cash bonus, sustaining veto by 8 votes, but campaign begins anew. Italy submits to League on Ethiopian arbitration. Britain sways Mussolini. Mussolini warns Italians may fight. Reich developing fast-moving army. All NRA enforcement is ended by President as Supreme Court rules act and codes void. Whole New Deal program in confusion. President will appeal to nation with a formula to salvage NRA. Industries act to retain codes. Roosevelt firm for law to retain NRA principles. Appeals for speed pour in. Conflicting NRA views pressed on Roosevelt. Labor reports pay cuts. A headline for every day of June 1935. 20,000 die in Indian quake. Wide areas devastated. 43 British airmen victims. Washington studies plan for a quick amendment of federal constitution. Kidnapped suspects elude capture and long chase. Enter Oregon Badlands. Normandy, hailed by throngs here, sets new records. Roosevelt will keep NRA, stripped of basic powers. Cash bonus fight dropped. Power strike in Toledo is ended by union vote after government plea. Baldwin to be premier in British Shuffle today, or for Foreign Office. House votes NIRA extension cutting Roosevelt power. Transport control pushed. Mussolini defies Britain and likens his policy to hers. China is removing troops and Japan delays action. U.S. warships go to area. Grassroots GOP pledge defense of states' rights. New NRA pushed in Senate. British get Reich to limit its navy in all categories. China ignores ultimatum. Japanese troops massed. Occupation today feared. Roosevelt insists Congress enact his reforms program. Final NRA vote due today. Skeleton NRA is extended. New move on hours and pay. President pushes jobs aid. Italy to seize all silver money for use in Ethiopian campaign. President sets up new NRA and picks staff to run it. $300 million white-collar aid. Britain consulting U.S. on North China crisis. Japan reduces forces. 347 convicts hold Kansas prison pit. 9 guards in peril. Roosevelt asks inheritance taxes and other levies on big fortunes. House passes Wagner labor bill. Democrats will not push Roosevelt's tax program at this Congress session. British ask Soviet to discuss navies. Paris cool to Eden. Eden finds Paris firmly opposed to German Navy. Navy pact details left in abeyance until wide parley. Roosevelt, in sudden move, demands immediate action on wealth-sharing taxes. New tax program pressed despite a revolt in House. Yield is put at $340 million. Hasty tax action dropped as President denies order to pass bill by Saturday. Lehman calls 4 lawyers to parley as all decline to head racket inquiry. Roosevelt refuses to drop his fight on holding units. City power plant blocked. Hoover not a candidate for the 1936 nomination. GOP senators are told. A headline for every day of July 1935. Nazi prison camps soften discipline. House defeats Roosevelt 216 to 146 on death sentence in utilities bill. New test in a vote of record today. House orders inquiry into lobbying by friends and foes of utility bill after beating President again 258 to 147. Blockade of Italy reported studies by British cabinet. Einstein and vast new theory links atom and stars in unified system. President rejects Ethiopia's appeal for peace effort. U.S. advises its citizens to begin leaving Ethiopia. 125 there, 113 in missions. Britain expected to drop her effort to curb Italy. Rift with France deepens. 37 dead in upstate floods. 7 missing, many homeless. Damage is put at $10 million. Federal and state aid rush to flood victims. Death toll rises to 41. Italy said to ask part of Ethiopia as price of peace. Hull joins with powers combating war in Africa. Tells Italy of concern. Hull backs Kellogg Pact as basis of our policy. Reminder to Italy seen. Coup by Himmler looms in Austria as Chancellor is injured in auto crash. Mussolini faces ruin if he yields in Africa dispute. Jews are beaten by Berlin rioters. Cafes are raided. AAA processing tax illegal. U.S. appeals court decides. States' rights held violated. League prepares to meet this month on Ethiopia. Emperor suggests deal. Reich strikes at Catholics. Rules attacks by priests are assaults on Nazi state. Anti-Semite police chief named to purge Berlin of Jews and communists. Priests who assail Nazi purge today will be arrested. Catholic priests silent on Nazi church dispute, except in South Germany. British end naval quotas but seek to limit fleets. Propose a parley in 1942. Anti-Semites firmly in the saddle as persecution spreads in Reich. Nazis threaten foreign reporters for lies on anti-Semitic drive. Mussolini offers conciliation plan in Ethiopian row. Reds rip flag off Bremen, throw it into Hudson. 2,000 battle the police. Berlin holds LaGuardia has broken treaty. Washington regrets riot. Ethiopians attack Italians in darkness, killing 40. Emperor replies to League. Rocket inquiry on, grand jury picked and Dewey sworn. Nazis widen religious war. U.S. regrets prosecutions. Berlin protests riot here. A headline for every day of August 1935. Democrats move to defy president on charity tax. He assails thrifty rich. Death sentence defeated again. House voting 210 to 155. Republicans delay tax bill. Big power yield to Italy on Ethiopian arbitration and call new conference. Japan to protest New York cartoon. Goebbels warns of greater drive on foes of Nazis. Nazi Catholic war openly declared. Pope sees trouble. New Deal foe is victor in Rhode Island election. Roosevelt tax aims given. Strike by unions is begun in fight on WPA pay here. Threatening wide tie-up. 5 slain at Toulon. Disorders spread in French strikes. French bars U.S. relief to all who quit WPA jobs. More strike on city works. Income tax exemptions cut by Senate committee. Surtax to apply at $3,000. Hitler says Reich is ready to meet any outside peril. Senators retreat on taxes. Cut in exemptions dropped. Yield now set at $250 million. Senators to investigate House's coup on Hobson. Refuse to tell income. Senate-House rift grows as O'Connor holds Hobson, ignoring contempt order. Senate passes its tax bill, bans new federal issues of tax-exempt securities. Will Rogers and Wiley Post die in airplane crash in Alaska. Nation shocked by tragedy. Italy, in parley, demands control of all Ethiopia. War believed inevitable. Ethiopia parley collapses as Mussolini's reply is no to Anglo-French proposal. Italy bars all peace talk. Britain weighs sanctions, wants to know our policy. Demand to vote U.S. neutrality now halts the rush of bills in Congress. London acts tomorrow on Ethiopia. President acts a neutrality issue as House balks after Senate votes. Britain won't act without France. Roosevelt agrees to bar war arms sales to February 29th. British to wait on League. House votes neutrality. British move plane ship to act firmly in Geneva. Britain is sending warships to Suez. Neutrality voted. U.S. protests to the Soviet over Red's activities here. Warns of the consequences. 74th Congress adjourns after Roosevelt warning. AAA to lend 10 cents on cotton. Soviet rejects U.S. protests. It denies any responsibility for action of Comintern. Italy warns of dangers if sanctions are applied, but reassures British. Young Queen Astrid killed as King's car hits a tree. Leopold slightly injured. German flies plane by leg power, bringing dream of Icarus nearer. A headline for every day of September 1935. Italy to call 200,000 men, making 1 million under arms. Her reply to sanction talk. Reich bishops tell Catholics to obey God and not men. Liner Dixie on Florida Reef. 260 passengers are in peril as hurricane lashes Keys. Seas prevent rescue of 351 on Dixie. Captain radios that all is well. 75 veterans reported dead in storm. Hurricane toll exceeds 200. 164 taken from Dixie when gale halts rescues. Italian envoy walks out as Ethiopian makes reply. Soviet asks League to act. League names conciliators. Italy yielding to pressure. British to act for security. Truce while League talks reported pledged by Italy. Pope sees hope for peace. Doctor shoots Huey Long in Louisiana state capitol. Bodyguards kill assailant. Senator Huey Long dies of wounds after 30-hour futile fight for life. Troopers guard Louisiana Capitol. Long to get state funeral. Governor Allen to run machine. Foes see chance to beat it. Britain demands League Act against aggression and pledges her support. Hull invokes Kellogg Pact and plea for Ethiopian peace. League awaits Laval stand. Laval puts France behind League. Unity with Britain isolates Italy. Rome stunned, may leave Geneva. Italy bars compromises, seeks Anglo-French rift. League rushes new plan. Reich adopts swastika as nation's official flag. Hitler's reply to insult. Britain is sounding powers on sanctions against Italy. De Valera pleads her for peace. Italians give ray of hope they might yet negotiate on reasonable conditions. League peace proposals give Italy a part in development of Ethiopia. Britain dispatches more warships. Rome expects Mussolini to reject League's plan. Geneva studies next step. Italy wavering as France warns Rome against war. May ask new negotiations. Italy leaves door open in rejecting League plan. Rome looks for new offer. Mussolini might now take mandate under the League. London denies any threats. League firm on peace plan as the Ethiopians accept it. Rome cabinet meets today. League council tomorrow takes up Mussolini reply. Rome hopeful, London firm. Ethiopians are mobilizing in the frontier provinces. Fascist rally likely today. League decides to invoke sanctions if Italy resorts to war on Ethiopia. Next move is now up to Mussolini. Roosevelt pledges Navy to maintain treaty ratio, building if others do so. Hurricane wreaks havoc in its passage over Cuba, sweeps east of Florida. Britain promises to resist any aggressor in Europe. Rome now sees war soon. A headline from every day of October 1935. Italy ready to begin war in Africa when mud dries. 30,000 troops on the way. Britain asks French stand if Italy attacks her navy. Thinks Ethiopian war sure. Big Italian force invades Ethiopia. Mussolini rallies 20 million fascisti. Roosevelt to keep U.S. unentangled. Italian airplanes bomb Adowa and Adigrat. 1,700 casualties include women and children. League Council acts on sanctions tomorrow. Italians press advance on Adowa. Fighting reported on other fronts. League group reports against Italy. Adowa and Adigrat still hold out after 3 days of fierce fighting. League acts on aggressor tomorrow. Adowa and Adigrat fall to Italians. Other armies advance in Ethiopia. Roosevelt limits travel on ships. League Council finds Italy guilty, moves to invoke sanction at once. Italians fortify new one war lines. Italian column closing in on Axum. Mountains near Adowa are shelled. League's experts work on sanctions. Hauptmann loses his fight for life in appeals court. 51 League nations condemn Italy. Name committee to apply sanctions. Action worries the Italian people. League puts arms embargo on Italy while lifting that against Ethiopia. Rome reports thousands desert foe. Italians decide to hasten advance in hopes new Ethiopian defections. League drafts a financial embargo. Mussolini annexes Adowa. Italians advance in south. League to bar basic goods. Axum yields to Italians without firing a shot. League cuts off all loans. Italians march on Macali. Planes raiding all fronts. League tightens embargo. Britain refuses to withdraw a fleet. Rome sees intent to stop Mussolini and increased peril of European war. Anglo-French relations strained as British demand flat reply on aid. London resents pro-Italian trend. Powers halt Mediterranean crisis. British and Italy to reduce forces. France pledges naval aid to British. 50 nations vote boycott of all Italian exports. Cut off key materials. Ethiopians trap 500 foes. Italians push air attack. Britain hastens armament. Italians advance in south. Britain checks arms ships. League invokes Paris Pact. Peace parley is expected as Hoare tells Commons sanctions can be avoided. Schultz is shot, 1 aide killed and 3 wounded. Schultz dies of wounds without naming slayers. 3 aides dead, 1 dying. Baldwin warns sanctions may mean naval blockade. Wants our attitude first. U.S. pledges moral effort to aid the League on peace. Italians press on Macali. France accepts sanctions. Geneva expects our help. Italians advance in north. Italians make big gains on 400-mile line in south. Drive in north delayed. Mayor orders war to end gang power. Chiefs are hunted. Germans protest Churchill attack as libeling Hitler. A headline for every day of November 1935. League moves to enforce Italian boycott by November 15th. Anti-British riots in Rome. $416,861,000 net price set for transit lines in Pact. City and IRT in accord. Italians begin new drive in north towards Macali. Sanctions start November 18th. 120,000 Italians advance 25 miles towards Macali. No resistance so far. 3 dead, 64 hurt in Miami as hurricane hits city. It sweeps out into Gulf. Republicans win majority of 14 in state assembly. Geoghegan elected in Brooklyn. County reform voted. Foes seek rebuke for the president and the New Deal. Kentucky Democrats win. Parties lead here 360,000 despite loss of assembly. Italians view Macali from camp on heights, ready to enter at dawn. Italians gain on 3 fronts. Take Macali and Gorahai. New drive begun in north. Japanese troops invade Shanghai to avenge killing. Italians in a 130-mile drive approach Jijiga in south, expect long delays in north. Army men rise 74,000 feet on flight in stratosphere, then land gently on farm. Ethiopians report victory in fierce battle in south with many of foe killed. Anti-British riots flare up in Egypt. 2 dead, 88 hurt. 250,000 see Quezon sworn as Philippines president. He warns foes of state. Hull warns war traders they violate our policy. British curbs sanction foes. Italy sends staff chief to speed war in Ethiopia. De Bono is called home. Fierce Ender Gorge battle described by eyewitness. Sanctions enforced today. Siege of Italy on. Anti-British riot balked by troops. Ellsworth off on flight over Antarctic wastes to Bird's Little America. Ethiopians repel foe at Sasabane, massacring many. Ethiopia waging hopeless fight. Foreign observers are convinced. Government as a creditor puts pressure on shipping to halt our war exports. Italy may leave League if it extends sanctions. Ethiopians seize towns. 2 women patients die, 36 saved in fire at sanatorium in Jersey. Martial law for Brazil is proclaimed by Vargas. Rebels lose Pernambuco. Washington not to relax effort to curb war trade. Italian protest expected. Italy orders army moves to warn Europe of war. Macaulay retreat reported. Reich declares all men 18 to 45 army reservists. France and Britain warn Italy of unit in facing attack. Sanctions sessions on December 12th. A headline for every day of December 1935. Chinese in North give up. Concede autonomy plan. Will detach 2 provinces. Britain and France draft a new offer to Mussolini. Would halt oil boycott. Ethiopians report Somaliland drive has carried to sea. Evasion to be prosecuted. Hull tells arms traders. Britain stands by League. Anglo-French peace plan proposed as alternative to sterner curbs on Italy. U.S. and Britain warn Japan on North China activities. Hull cites treaty rights. Italian air raid wrecks Dessier Palace and hospital. 32 killed, 200 wounded. Lindbergh still believe in guilt of Hauptmann as child slayer. New Ethiopia peace terms fixed by Hoare and Laval as final offer to Italians. U.S. asks 20% naval cut as London parley opens. Britain and Japan cool. British accepts peace plan with slight modifications. It goes to Rome and Addis. Ethiopia to reject terms. Envoy forecasts in Paris. Storm in Britain over plan. Eden gets League Council to act on Ethiopian terms. Oil sanctions are shelved. Peace plan held doomed as League publishes text. Eden prepares to fight it. Democrats search old files to show Hoover has shifted. Peace plan revolt rises. Little Entente will join Scandinavia in opposition. Republican convention in Cleveland on June 9th. Party chiefs confident. Italians are forced back as battle opens in North. Laval is upheld on terms. Hoare resigns his peace plan dead. Eden admits its defeat at Geneva. Mussolini renews defiant attitude. Baldwin sustained 397 to 165 after he confesses error. League drops peace plan. British rushes Egyptian forts to bar an invasion from Libya. ICC to reduce rail fares to 2 cents a mile maximum with 3 cents in Pullmans. Lindbergh family sails for England to seek a safe, secluded residence. Threats on son's life force decision. America shocked by exile forced on the Lindberghs. England to guard arrival. President urges Christmas spirit of peace and unity. Pro-Tokyo official slain in Shanghai. Japanese on guard. Supremacy in air is Hitler answer to British feeler. Laval fall today expected as deputies cheer demand to back Britain and League. Ethiopian armies battle Italian forces in north. Laval upheld 296 to 276. Deals on colonies may give Germany Portuguese lands. Mussolini acts to calm home unrest by pleading difficulties in Ethiopia.